If you look at the news today, you'd think the biggest risks to the United States economy were the AI bubble, foreign adversaries, or whoever is sitting in the Oval Office. But traditional financial media ignores the actual greatest threat to the economy, simply because it doesn't generate sensational, clickable headlines. We are staring down the barrel of a $3 trillion crash in commercial real estate. Over the last decade, money was practically free. Interest rates sat near zero, and developers responded by building massive glass office towers in every major city like it was a national sport. Then 2020 happened. The world shut down. Everyone realized they could do their jobs in sweatpants from their couch, and those offices emptied out. And honestly, they never really filled back up. This puts building valuations and debt levels on a direct collision course. When occupancy stays low, but the debt load remains high, the math behind these massive investments stops making sense. Yet the visible crash hasn't arrived. To understand why, we have to look at the specific way the entities holding this debt are managing their balance sheets behind the scenes. Your standard residential mortgage is usually locked into a fixed rate for 30 years. Commercial real estate loans operate on an entirely different set of rules. These commercial loans act more like adjustable rate time bombs. They operate on short cycles, maturing every 5 to 10 years. When that cycle ends, the massive debt doesn't disappear. It must be renegotiated and refinanced at whatever today's interest rates happen to be. Borrowing costs today are significantly higher than they were a decade ago. Every time one of these short-term cycles expires, developers are forced to refinance their empty buildings at a much steeper price. The structure of commercial debt guarantees a forced mathematical collision with reality. No matter how long developers try to hold out, the clock eventually runs out. So who exactly is on the hook for this $3 trillion in high-risk debt? It isn't the massive Wall Street banks. Following the 2008 crisis, regulators forced big banks to increase capital reserves and tighten lending standards, preventing a repeat of that collapse. With massive banks backing away from risky lending, the vacuum was filled by regional banks. The mid-sized, boring community banks that sponsor your local minor league baseball team absorbed this $3 trillion bag. To keep themselves afloat, these regional banks are relying on an industry survival tactic known as extend and pretend. If the banks forced building owners to default, they would legally have to admit they just lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Instead, they quietly extend the loan terms. It's the financial equivalent of hiding your credit card statement under your mattress, pretending you aren't broke. They are concerned that marking these office buildings to their actual market value would instantly wipe out their balance sheets. Regional banks are effectively maintaining an accounting illusion. They are surviving on paper, remaining in a cycle of denial to avoid institutional failure. You might be wondering why you should care if some billionaire's empty skyscraper goes into foreclosure. Regional banks are the primary bloodstream of the local economy. They provide the everyday capital that keeps towns running. To survive this hidden commercial real estate crisis, these banks must adopt a highly defensive posture. They are ruthlessly hoarding cash just to stay alive. If a bank is hoarding cash, they stop lending to everyone else. The local plumber who wants to expand his business gets denied. The family needing a new auto loan is suddenly rejected. We see risk appetite vanish and capital tighten. When liquidity dries up at the ground level, economic growth suffocates. While economists hyperanalyze every word from the Federal Reserve, they may be missing the damage happening in the blind spots of the private market. If capital is already tightening at the local level, standard data metrics might be lagging behind the actual experience on the ground. That is how a localized office problem mutates into an everyday American crisis. The vital flow of money is being quietly choked off behind closed doors, and the cost of money changes for everyone.